Tonight, we travel into a world where history and legend meet upon dark and restless seas. For generations, sailors shared stories of a pirate ship that refused to disappear, a vessel associated with treasure, violence, betrayal, and an ancient curse. Some believed the ship had been destroyed long ago. Others claimed it still wandered the oceans, appearing suddenly through fog, vanishing without a trace, and leaving fear wherever it was seen. The legend spread from port to port, crossing oceans and surviving long after the age of piracy had ended. Like many maritime mysteries, the story grew with every retelling. Some versions spoke of a pirate captain whose greed brought disaster upon his crew. Others described hidden treasure protected by a terrible curse. And some claimed the ship itself had become a ghostly warning to sailors who crossed its path. But what lies behind the legend? Was there a real vessel that inspired the tale? Why do ghost ship stories continue surviving for centuries? And what do these stories reveal about the people who sailed the world's oceans? Tonight, we'll explore the history, folklore, and mystery behind one of the sea's darkest legends. So settle comfortably, listen to the sound of the waves, and let us begin our journey into the story of the cursed pirate ship. Before we begin, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the Forgotten Files, and let me know in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Every story, every memory, and every place matters, and together we keep history alive. Now let's begin. Part 1: The Golden Age of Pirates. As the first rays of sunlight spread across the warm waters of the Caribbean and gentle waves roll against distant tropical shores, we begin our journey not with curses or ghost ships, but with the very real world that gave birth to countless pirate legends. Before a ship could become cursed in the imagination of sailors, it first had to exist within an age already filled with danger, mystery, and fear. To understand how stories of haunted pirate vessels emerged, we must travel back to a period historians now call the Golden Age of Piracy, a remarkable chapter in maritime history that lasted roughly from the late 17th century into the early 18th century. During these decades, vast regions of the Atlantic Ocean, Caribbean Sea, and surrounding waters became stages upon which merchants, naval officers, explorers, and pirates all pursued their ambitions. It was a world connected by ships, dependent upon trade, and shaped by the unpredictable power of the sea. Imagine standing upon the deck of a merchant vessel leaving a European port. Ahead lies a voyage lasting months. The ship carries cargo of enormous value: sugar, tobacco, spices, silver, textiles, and countless other goods move between continents. Entire economies depend upon these voyages. Yet every journey involves risk. Storms threaten vessels. Disease affects crews. Navigation remains imperfect. And somewhere beyond the horizon may be ships carrying black flags. The sea offers opportunity, but it also invites danger. This combination creates fertile ground for both history and legend. Imagine the Caribbean during the early 18th century. Today, many people associate the region with beaches and tropical beauty. Yet during the age of piracy, it represented one of the busiest and most contested maritime environments in the world. European empires competed for territory and resources. Merchant vessels crossed important trade routes. Naval ships patrolled strategic waters. Ports bustled with activity. The region became a crossroads where wealth flowed continuously through shipping networks. Wherever wealth travels, those willing to seize it often appear as well. Pirates emerged partly because these conditions created opportunities. They were not supernatural figures. They were human beings responding to economic and political circumstances. Yet over time, their activities inspired stories far larger than reality. Imagine a pirate vessel appearing upon the horizon. For a merchant crew, the sight alone could generate fear. Unlike naval ships operating according to official rules, pirates represented uncertainty. Their intentions were rarely benevolent. Some sought cargo, others demanded supplies. Certain crews developed reputations for violence. Stories about pirate attacks spread rapidly because they served as warnings. Sailors exchanged information continuously. A vessel known for cruelty became famous. A successful pirate captain became a subject of discussion in ports across oceans. Reputation mattered. In many cases, fear itself became a weapon. A pirate ship did not always need to fight if its reputation convinced victims to surrender. Imagine life aboard a pirate vessel. Popular culture often presents pirates as romantic adventurers, yet reality was usually more complicated. Conditions could be harsh. Food was limited. Discipline varied between crews. Voyages involved uncertainty and risk. Pirates faced threats from storms, rival crews, disease, and naval forces seeking to capture them. Their lives existed at the edge of legality and often at the edge of survival. Such environments encourage storytelling because stories help create identity and meaning. Pirate crews develop traditions, symbols, and reputations. These cultural elements later contributed to the legends surrounding them. Imagine a sailor hearing rumors about a particular pirate ship. The vessel may have attacked several merchant ships successfully. Survivors describe its appearance. They recount encounters. Details spread through maritime communities. Some descriptions remain accurate. Others become exaggerated. Human beings naturally remember dramatic events more vividly than ordinary ones. Over time, a ship acquires a reputation extending beyond its actual history. This process occurs repeatedly throughout maritime culture. The boundary between fact and legend begins blurring long before ghost stories appear. Imagine the role of fear within these narratives. Fear shapes perception. When people expect danger, they pay closer attention to unusual details. A dark silhouette on the horizon appears more threatening. A storm occurring after an encounter seems more meaningful. Stories told under emotional circumstances often acquire symbolic power. Pirate ships therefore become more than vessels. They become symbols of uncertainty, risk, and disruption. Sailors encountering them may later describe events in ways reflecting emotional impact as much as objective observation. This tendency contributes significantly to the development of maritime folklore. Imagine a merchant crew surviving an encounter with pirates. They reach port safely and share their experience. Listeners gather around. Questions are asked. Details are repeated. The story spreads. Every retelling emphasizes certain elements: courage, danger, escape, loss. Over time, these narratives evolve. A pirate ship once associated with successful raids becomes associated with mystery. Another linked to violence acquires a darker reputation. Folklore often begins through such gradual transformations. No single person invents a legend. Communities create it collectively. Imagine the sea itself influencing this process. Oceans are environments where information remains incomplete. Visibility changes. Weather alters conditions rapidly. Ships disappear beyond horizons. Entire voyages can pass without reliable news. Such circumstances encourage speculation. When facts are scarce, stories fill gaps. A vessel that vanishes unexpectedly may inspire rumors. A shipwreck lacking survivors may generate theories. Pirate ships, already associated with danger, become ideal subjects for these narratives. The unknown attracts imagination. Imagine the broader atmosphere of the golden age of piracy. It is a world where fortune and disaster often seem separated by only a few decisions. A successful voyage generates wealth. A storm destroys everything. A pirate attack changes lives permanently. Uncertainty dominates daily experience. Human beings living within uncertain environments frequently create stories helping them understand risks. The legends surrounding pirate ships emerge from this need. They transform unpredictable events into meaningful narratives. A cursed ship feels more comprehensible than random misfortune. A haunted vessel provides explanations where evidence is lacking. These psychological dynamics help explain why maritime folklore becomes so rich and enduring. As we stand upon the edge of this historical world and watch pirate vessels crossing distant horizons, we begin understanding how the foundations of darker legends were laid. The sea was already dangerous. Pirates were already feared. Stories were already spreading. All the necessary ingredients existed. Somewhere among these ships, one vessel would eventually acquire a reputation so dark that its story would outlive the age of piracy itself. And from that reputation, the legend of a cursed pirate ship would begin to emerge. As the golden age of piracy reaches its height and pirate ships become familiar sights across the Atlantic and Caribbean worlds, a deeper understanding of maritime fear begins to emerge. Pirates inspired anxiety not only because of what they did, but because of what they represented. Merchant ships operated within established systems of trade and law. Naval vessels served governments and empires. Pirate ships existed outside those structures. They occupied a space between order and chaos. This distinction made them uniquely powerful within the imagination of sailors. Long before ghost stories attached themselves to particular vessels, pirate ships already possessed qualities that encouraged myth-making. They appeared suddenly. They vanished quickly. They carried reputations shaped as much by rumor as by reality. Understanding this environment is essential because it reveals how an ordinary vessel might eventually become a cursed one in maritime folklore. Imagine a merchant ship crossing the Caribbean under clear skies. The crew follows familiar routines. Cargo is secured. Navigation continues. The sea appears calm. Then a lookout notices a sail on the horizon. Such moments create immediate tension because identification takes time. Is the approaching vessel friendly? Neutral? Dangerous? Uncertainty dominates the first stages of any encounter. Sailors learn to read clues, flag colors, ship design, maneuvers, yet information remains incomplete until distance closes. During these moments, imagination becomes active. Expectations shape interpretation. A vessel rumored to be nearby influences how sailors perceive unfamiliar ships. Fear begins before confirmation arrives. Imagine the pirate ship itself. Contrary to popular depictions, pirate vessels varied considerably. Some were small and fast. Others were larger and heavily armed. Crews selected ships according to practical needs. Speed often mattered more than size because successful piracy depended upon catching targets and escaping pursuers. Yet regardless of design, pirate ships developed reputations extending beyond physical characteristics. Stories transformed them into symbols. A particular vessel might become known for aggressive tactics. Another might gain fame through successful raids. These reputations spread rapidly through maritime networks. Sailors arriving in port exchanged information constantly. News traveled through conversation long before newspapers could distribute it widely. Imagine an evening in a busy harbor tavern. Merchant sailors, fishermen, dock workers, and travelers gather together. Conversations focus on recent voyages. Someone mentions a pirate ship encountered weeks earlier. Another sailor recognizes the description. Additional details emerge. The vessel attacked near a certain island, carried a distinctive flag. Its captain behaved in a memorable way. Gradually, a shared narrative develops. Such discussions perform important social functions. They transmit knowledge. They strengthen community bonds. They help individuals process difficult experiences. Yet they also contribute to legend formation. Every retelling introduces opportunities for emphasis, omission, and interpretation. Stories evolve naturally as they spread. Imagine the emotional impact of pirate attacks. Even when physical harm remains limited, the experience can be profound. The sudden appearance of danger, the uncertainty of outcomes, and the disruption of ordinary expectations all leave lasting impressions. Human memory tends to preserve emotionally significant events vividly. Survivors recount them repeatedly. Listeners remember them. Over time, specific details may change while emotional truths remain. The ship becomes larger than the event itself. It becomes a symbol of the fear it inspired. This process helps explain why certain vessels acquire legendary reputations. Their historical actions matter, but so do the emotions associated with them. Imagine how maritime communities interpret repeated misfortunes connected to a particular ship. Suppose several vessels disappear after encounters with the same pirate crew. Perhaps storms occur during those voyages. Perhaps survivors report strange circumstances. Human beings naturally search for patterns. We prefer explanations linking events together. If enough stories accumulate around one vessel, it may begin attracting supernatural interpretations. A ship already associated with danger becomes associated with bad luck. Bad luck evolves into a curse. The transition is gradual rather than sudden. Folklore rarely appears fully formed. It develops through accumulation. Imagine the role of treasure within these narratives. Pirate stories often involve hidden wealth because treasure symbolizes both opportunity and temptation. Historical pirates certainly captured valuable cargo, though reality rarely resembled later fictional depictions. Nevertheless, treasure occupies an important place in folklore because it generates narrative possibilities. Hidden wealth invites secrecy. Secrecy encourages betrayal. Betrayal inspires rumors. Rumors evolve into legends. A ship believed to carry treasure may acquire a mysterious reputation even before anything unusual occurs. If misfortunes follow, the treasure itself may become part of the explanation. The idea of cursed riches appears repeatedly throughout folklore for precisely this reason. Imagine a pirate ship disappearing unexpectedly. No confirmed wreck is found. No survivors provide definitive answers. Such disappearances occur throughout maritime history. Ships vanish because oceans are vast and information remains limited. Yet unexplained disappearances invite storytelling. Communities seek explanations. Some theories remain practical. Others become imaginative. A feared pirate vessel disappearing without resolution creates ideal conditions for legend formation. The absence of evidence becomes fertile ground for speculation. Where did the ship go? What happened to the crew? Did treasure remain aboard? Questions persist. Stories attempt to answer them. Imagine generations passing while memories of the original events begin fading. Historical details become less certain. Yet the stories remain. In many cases, the stories grow stronger precisely because evidence becomes scarce. Uncertainty allows imagination greater freedom. A pirate ship once known for specific actions gradually transforms into something larger. Its reputation expands. New details are added. Old details become symbolic. Eventually, the vessel occupies a place within folklore rather than history alone. The process resembles the formation of legends surrounding ghost ships, haunted locations, and mysterious disappearances across many cultures. Human beings preserve emotionally meaningful stories even when factual information diminishes. Imagine standing on a shoreline at sunset watching distant sails disappear beyond the horizon. For sailors living during the golden age of piracy, Such sights carried both familiarity and uncertainty. Ships connected worlds, but they also vanished into environments where outcomes remained unpredictable. Pirate vessels embodied this uncertainty particularly well. They represented freedom and danger, success and failure, opportunity and loss. Their stories naturally attracted attention because they reflected tensions already present within maritime life. As the age of piracy continues unfolding and certain ships begin acquiring darker reputations than others, the foundations of a specific legend are slowly taking shape. Fear, rumor, treasure, violence, disappearance, and memory are beginning to combine. Soon, one vessel will stand apart from the rest. The story will grow darker with every retelling, and the first whispers of a curse will begin spreading across the sea. Part 2: The Ship That Earned a Dark Reputation. As the golden age of piracy continues across the warm waters of the Caribbean and Atlantic, countless ships come and go. Some become famous for successful voyages. Others are remembered for storms, shipwrecks, or remarkable discoveries. Yet among the many vessels crossing the sea, a small number acquire reputations that seem to grow darker with every retelling. These ships become more than wooden hulls and canvas sails. They become stories. Their names spread from port to port. Sailors lower their voices when speaking about them. Rumors begin attaching themselves to their history. Over time, the line between fact and folklore becomes increasingly difficult to distinguish. It is within this environment that the legend of the cursed pirate ship begins to take shape. Like many enduring maritime legends, it does not emerge all at once. Instead, it develops gradually through fear, memory, coincidence, and the human desire to explain events that seem unusually tragic or mysterious. Imagine a pirate vessel operating successfully throughout the Caribbean. Its captain is experienced. The crew is skilled. Merchant ships fear encountering it. Stories about its exploits circulate widely. Such a ship naturally attracts attention. Success creates visibility. Visibility generates discussion. Discussion produces reputation. Yet reputation can change rapidly when unusual events begin occurring. Imagine that several encounters involving the ship end in unexpected disaster. A merchant vessel attacked by pirates later vanishes during a storm. Another ship that crossed paths with the same crew suffers mysterious misfortune. A third vessel disappears entirely. Individually, such events may be explainable. Storms occur frequently. Accidents happen. Ships vanish for many reasons. Yet human beings rarely view events in isolation. We search for connections. If enough incidents appear linked to a particular vessel, patterns begin emerging within collective memory. Imagine sailors gathering in a busy port after months at sea. Conversations naturally focus on recent voyages. One crew describes hearing rumors about a pirate ship associated with unusual bad luck. Another recalls stories from a different harbor. A third contributes details involving treasure, violence, or disappearance. No one possesses complete information, yet the narrative grows stronger with every exchange. Folklore often develops through precisely this process. Each storyteller contributes fragments. The fragments combine into something larger than any individual account. The ship begins acquiring a reputation extending beyond its documented history. Imagine the role of fear in shaping these stories. Fear is a powerful organizer of memory. Events associated with strong emotions are remembered more vividly than ordinary experiences. If sailors already fear a pirate vessel, they become more likely to notice and remember details supporting that fear. A storm occurring after an encounter feels meaningful. A navigational error becomes part of the narrative. Coincidences appear significant. Over time, the ship transforms from a source of danger into a source of unease. People no longer fear only the crew. They begin fearing the vessel itself. This psychological shift is important because it marks the beginning of the curse narrative. Imagine the pirate ship carrying valuable treasure captured during raids. Historically, pirates often seized cargo rather than burying vast fortunes. Yet treasure occupies a central place within maritime folklore. Wealth generates stories because it symbolizes opportunity, greed, and conflict simultaneously. A ship believed to carry treasure attracts speculation. Where is the treasure hidden? Who controls it? What happened to those who sought it? These questions encourage narrative development. If tragedy becomes associated with the treasure, the wealth itself may appear cursed. Such themes recur throughout folklore across many cultures. Hidden riches frequently bring misfortune. The cursed pirate ship legend draws upon this tradition. Imagine a violent dispute occurring aboard the vessel. Pirate crews were not immune to conflict. Leadership disagreements, competition over resources, and personal grievances could create tension. Historical records describe mutinies, arguments, and divisions within crews. Folklore often amplifies these realities. A disagreement becomes betrayal. A betrayal becomes murder. A murder becomes a curse. The process reflects a common storytelling pattern in which ordinary conflicts acquire symbolic significance. Audiences remember dramatic narratives more easily than mundane ones. Consequently, stories emphasizing betrayal often survive longer. Imagine generations of sailors hearing rumors that treasure aboard the ship was obtained through particularly brutal actions. Whether such claims are accurate becomes less important than their emotional effect. The vessel begins appearing morally contaminated. Carries not only wealth but also guilt. Maritime folklore frequently links wrongdoing to supernatural consequences. Ships associated with excessive cruelty, greed, or betrayal become natural candidates for cursed stories. The cursed pirate ship therefore reflects broader cultural concerns about justice. If ordinary legal systems fail to punish wrongdoing, folklore may imagine other forms of accountability. Imagine the ship surviving encounters that seem impossible. A violent storm destroys nearby vessels, yet the pirate ship escapes. Naval forces pursue it unsuccessfully. Dangerous situations end in unexpected survival. Such outcomes can inspire admiration, but they can also inspire suspicion. Human beings often become uncomfortable when events appear too improbable. Extraordinary success invites speculation. Some sailors may interpret repeated survival as evidence of luck. Others may suspect darker explanations. Folklore thrives within these uncertainties. The ship's resilience becomes part of its reputation. Over time, resilience may be reinterpreted as evidence of supernatural protection. Imagine a crew encountering the vessel at dusk. The sea is calm. The pirate ship appears briefly upon the horizon before disappearing into gathering fog. Such ordinary observations can become extraordinary through retelling. The ship seems strange. The weather changed unexpectedly. The encounter felt unsettling. Stories preserve emotions as much as facts. If listeners already know rumors about the vessel, they interpret new accounts accordingly. Every sighting strengthens the legend. Every coincidence becomes evidence. The reputation grows. Imagine the cumulative effect of years of storytelling. Sailors travel between ports carrying narratives with them. New details are added. Old details are forgotten. The core story remains. Pirate ship, treasure, betrayal, violence, misfortune. These elements combine repeatedly until the vessel acquires a distinct identity within maritime folklore. It is no longer merely a pirate ship. It is the pirate ship associated with darkness, Sailors may disagree about specific details, yet they share a common impression. Something about this vessel feels wrong. Such impressions often mark the early stages of legendary development. Imagine standing upon a dock listening to stories exchanged beneath lantern light. No one can prove the ship is cursed. No one can fully explain the rumors either. Yet uncertainty itself becomes part of the attraction. People are drawn toward mysteries. The cursed pirate ship legend survives because it offers a framework for interpreting uncertainty. Misfortunes appear connected rather than random. Coincidences acquire meaning. The ship becomes a symbol. As the reputation continues spreading across oceans and generations, the vessel begins moving beyond ordinary history. It enters the realm of myth. And soon, a single disastrous event will transform whispers of bad luck into full belief that the ship carries a curse no sailor should ever ignore. As rumors surrounding the mysterious pirate vessel continue spreading through maritime communities, and its reputation darkens with every retelling, the legend enters a new stage of development. The ship is no longer known merely for piracy. It becomes associated with something deeper and more unsettling. Sailors begin speaking about the vessel as though it possesses a character of its own. This tendency appears frequently in maritime culture. Ships spend months or years carrying crews across dangerous waters. They survive storms, witness tragedies, and become central parts of people's lives. Over time, sailors often treat vessels almost as living entities. They attribute personalities to them. They celebrate their successes. They mourn their losses. When misfortune repeatedly surrounds a particular ship, the vessel itself may become the focus of suspicion. The cursed pirate ship legend emerges from exactly this pattern. Imagine a harbor crowded with merchant vessels arriving from distant destinations. News spreads quickly. Sailors exchange stories before cargo is even unloaded. One rumor begins attracting unusual attention. Several crews claim that ships encountering a certain pirate vessel later experienced disaster. Another crew insists the pirates themselves suffered strange losses. A third describes hearing stories involving hidden treasure and betrayal. No one possesses complete information, yet the narrative grows stronger because different accounts seem to support one another. Human beings naturally trust patterns appearing across multiple sources. The resulting impression may feel persuasive even when evidence remains incomplete. Imagine how maritime folklore often develops through accumulation rather than invention. Most legends contain elements rooted in real experiences. Storms genuinely destroy ships. Crews genuinely disappear. Conflicts genuinely occur. The difference lies in interpretation. Folklore organizes events into meaningful narratives. A cursed ship legend, therefore, does not require fabricated incidents. It requires a framework connecting incidents together. Once the idea of a curse appears, subsequent events become easier to interpret through that lens. Every new misfortune strengthens belief. Imagine the treasure said to be aboard the vessel. Stories about pirate wealth exert powerful influence because treasure represents possibility. Hidden gold suggests adventure. It also suggests greed. Many cultures contain legends warning about the dangers of excessive desire. Cursed treasures appear repeatedly in folklore because they embody moral lessons. Wealth obtained through violence often brings consequences. The cursed pirate ship legend draws upon these themes. Sailors begin speculating that treasure aboard the vessel carries misfortune. Those who seek it suffer. Those who possess it perish. Whether any treasure actually exists becomes secondary. The idea itself shapes the story. Imagine a sailor hearing that members of the pirate crew turned against one another over captured riches. Such events are historically plausible. Pirate crews, like all human communities, experience disagreements. Yet folklore amplifies conflict. A dispute becomes betrayal. Betrayal becomes murder. Murder becomes evidence of a curse. Audiences often find narratives involving moral consequences compelling because they provide structure. Random tragedy feels unsettling. Tragedy linked to choices feels understandable. The cursed pirate ship legend therefore evolves partly as a story about cause and effect. Actions generate outcomes. Greed invites punishment. Violence creates lasting consequences. Imagine the ship surviving disasters that destroy other vessels. A storm sweeps across the Caribbean. Several merchant ships are lost. Yet the pirate vessel emerges intact. Sailors take notice. Exceptional survival attracts attention because it appears improbable. Some interpret it as luck. Others suspect darker forces. Maritime folklore frequently associates unusual resilience with supernatural explanations. A ship surviving too often may seem as mysterious as a ship sinking unexpectedly. Both outcomes challenge expectations. The cursed pirate ship benefits from this ambiguity. Its survival becomes evidence supporting multiple interpretations. Imagine reports describing strange appearances of the vessel. Perhaps sailors encounter it at dawn emerging from fog. Perhaps it appears briefly before disappearing behind weather systems. Such experiences are common at sea. Visibility changes rapidly. Distances can be difficult to judge. Atmospheric conditions create unusual effects. Yet within the context of an emerging legend, ordinary observations acquire extraordinary significance. The ship seems ghostly. Its timing feels suspicious. Every sighting reinforces existing beliefs. The vessel gradually separates itself from other pirate ships within collective memory. Imagine generations passing while the original events become increasingly difficult to verify. Historical details fade. Rumors remain. This transformation is crucial. Legends often grow strongest when precise information becomes scarce. Uncertainty allows imagination greater freedom. Listeners fill gaps using themes already present within the story. Treasure becomes more valuable. Betrayal becomes more dramatic. The curse becomes more powerful. The narrative evolves because people continue finding it meaningful. Historical accuracy becomes less important than emotional truth. Imagine a young sailor hearing the story for the first time. Older mariners describe the cursed ship in hushed tones. They recount sightings, disappearances, and misfortunes. The details vary depending upon the storyteller, yet the atmosphere remains consistent. The vessel is dangerous, not merely because of its crew, but because of what it represents. The story functions as entertainment, warning, and cultural memory simultaneously. Such versatility helps explain its survival. Legends endure when they satisfy multiple needs. Imagine the broader symbolic significance of the ship. It represents more than piracy. It embodies fears associated with the sea itself. Uncertainty, isolation, loss. The ocean often reminds sailors of their limited control. Storms ignore intentions. Accidents occur unexpectedly. Voyages end without explanation. The cursed pirate ship transforms these realities into a recognizable image. Instead of confronting abstract uncertainty, sailors confront a story. Stories are easier to remember, easier to discuss, easier to pass between generations. Imagine standing aboard a merchant vessel crossing dark waters beneath a moonless sky. Somewhere beyond the horizon lies a ship rumored to carry treasure, betrayal, and misfortune. Whether the legend is true becomes almost irrelevant. The possibility alone influences perception. Every distant sail attracts attention. Every unexplained event feels meaningful. The cursed pirate ship has achieved something important. It has become larger than history. It now belongs to folklore, and as the legend continues spreading through ports, taverns, and ships across the Atlantic world, a final turning point approaches. A disaster so memorable, so dramatic, and so mysterious that whispers of bad luck will become certainty in the minds of many sailors. After that event, the ship will no longer merely possess a dark reputation. It will be believed cursed. Part 3: The Curse Takes Hold. As the reputation of the mysterious pirate vessel spreads farther across the Caribbean and Atlantic, and stories of treasure, betrayal, and misfortune become increasingly common among sailors, we arrive at the moment that transforms suspicion into belief. Throughout history, many ships acquired reputations. Some were considered lucky, others were admired for speed, resilience, or successful voyages. Yet only a small number became associated with something darker. The difference often depended upon a single event, a disaster so dramatic that it seemed impossible to dismiss as mere coincidence. Human beings naturally search for turning points because they help organize history into understandable narratives. The cursed pirate ship legend contains such a turning point. According to the stories passed between generations of sailors, there came a voyage after which the vessel was never viewed the same way again. Whether every detail is historically accurate matters less than the role the event played within maritime folklore. It became the moment when ordinary fear evolved into belief that the ship carried a curse. Imagine the pirate vessel during the height of its notoriety. Its name is already known throughout many ports. Merchant crews discuss it before departing on voyages. Captains monitor reports about its movements. Rumors surrounding hidden treasure and violent disputes circulate widely. The ship possesses a reputation larger than its documented history. Yet reputation alone does not create a curse. Something more is required. Folklore often demands a dramatic incident capable of explaining why a legend exists. The cursed pirate ship receives exactly such an incident. Imagine a voyage beginning under conditions that appear ordinary. The weather seems favorable. The sea remains calm. The crew prepares for another journey. Nothing immediately suggests disaster. Such beginnings are common within folklore because they create contrast. The greater the contrast between normality and catastrophe, the more memorable the resulting story becomes. Sailors later recount that everything seemed routine at first. The ship departed as it always had. The crew followed familiar practices. Yet beneath the surface, tensions may already have existed. Stories speak of disagreements over treasure, questions about leadership, distrust among crew members. Whether these details reflect reality or later embellishment, they become essential components of the legend. Imagine the vessel carrying treasure acquired during previous raids. In maritime folklore, treasure rarely functions merely as wealth. It symbolizes temptation, desire, opportunity, conflict. The greater the treasure, the greater the potential for trouble. Many traditional stories link hidden riches with misfortune because they explore the consequences of greed. The cursed pirate ship legend follows this pattern. Sailors begin claiming that disputes over treasure created divisions within the crew. Some versions describe arguments. Others speak of betrayal. A few suggest violence. Regardless of the specific details, the underlying theme remains consistent. Human actions set the stage for future disaster. Imagine the ship crossing increasingly remote waters. The horizon stretches endlessly in every direction. Isolation intensifies existing tensions. Maritime life often amplifies interpersonal conflicts because escape is impossible. Crews live and work together within confined environments for extended periods. Historical records from many types of ships describe disagreements arising under such conditions. Folklore transforms these realities into dramatic narratives. A conflict becomes a feud. A disagreement becomes treachery. The cursed pirate ship acquires emotional depth because listeners recognize the plausibility of such developments. Imagine a storm appearing unexpectedly. Storms occupy a special place within maritime legends because they represent forces beyond human control. Sailors can prepare. They can respond skillfully, yet they cannot command the weather. The sea frequently reminds people of this fact. According to the legend, the pirate vessel encounters a storm unlike any previously experienced. Dark clouds gather rapidly. Winds strengthen. Waves grow larger. Conditions deteriorate with alarming speed. Such descriptions are common in folklore because storms provide natural settings for transformation. They symbolize chaos, judgment, and uncertainty simultaneously. Imagine the crew struggling to maintain control. Rain lashes the deck. Visibility declines. Orders are shouted above the wind. The ship rises and falls violently upon enormous waves. These details feel authentic because they reflect genuine maritime experiences. Sailors listening to the story understand the danger immediately. Storms capable of destroying ships are real. The legend gains credibility by grounding itself within recognizable circumstances. Yet the narrative soon moves beyond ordinary disaster. Imagine the most dramatic versions of the story. They describe strange occurrences during the storm. Some claim lights appeared where no lights should have existed. Others report unusual sounds carried by the wind. A few suggest that crew members believed they were being punished for earlier actions. Whether such details originated during the event or were added later becomes difficult to determine. Folklore often accumulates supernatural elements gradually. What matters is their symbolic function. They transform a storm from a natural disaster into evidence supporting the curse narrative. Imagine the aftermath. When the storm finally passes, something is wrong. Different versions describe different outcomes. Some claim part of the crew vanished. Others suggest the treasure disappeared. A few insist the ship itself was never seen again. The details vary because legends adapt over time. Yet all versions emphasize loss and uncertainty. Questions remain unanswered. Mystery survives. These characteristics are crucial because unresolved events encourage storytelling. Definitive explanations end discussions. Ambiguity sustains them. Imagine sailors hearing reports about the disaster. Information arrives gradually. Fragments of stories reach different ports. Witnesses disagree about details. Rumors fill gaps. Human beings naturally seek coherence. If a ship already possesses a dark reputation, new misfortunes are interpreted through that lens. The storm becomes evidence. The disappearances become evidence. The unresolved questions become evidence. The curse narrative suddenly feels persuasive, not because proof exists, but because the story organizes scattered events into a meaningful pattern. Imagine the emotional impact upon maritime communities. Sailors already fear storms. They already fear piracy. They already understand uncertainty. The cursed pirate ship combines all these concerns into a single narrative. The vessel becomes a symbol of consequences. Whether those consequences result from greed, betrayal, violence, or fate depends upon the storyteller. Yet the message remains clear. Something happened aboard that ship. Something significant enough to alter how people remember it. As reports continue spreading and the story grows darker with each retelling, the disaster acquires legendary status. The ship is no longer merely unlucky. It is no longer merely feared. In the minds of many sailors, the curse has become real. And from that moment forward, every future sighting, every future storm, and every future mystery connected to the vessel will be interpreted through the shadow of that belief. As the story of the disastrous voyage spreads throughout maritime communities and sailors begin accepting the idea that the pirate vessel carries a curse, the legend enters a new and powerful phase. Before the disaster, rumors existed. People speculated. They exchanged stories and debated possibilities. After the disaster, however, the tone changes. The ship is no longer discussed merely as a dangerous vessel. It becomes something to avoid, something to fear. The distinction is important because legends achieve lasting influence when they alter behavior. Sailors begin modifying routes. Captains take reports more seriously. Ordinary sightings acquire unusual significance. The cursed pirate ship transforms from a story into a warning. Understanding how this transformation occurs reveals much about the psychology of folklore and the way human beings respond to uncertainty. Imagine a harbor several months after news of the disaster begins circulating. Merchant crews prepare for departure. Conversations naturally focus on recent events at sea. Someone mentions the pirate vessel. The atmosphere shifts. People listen more carefully. Stories involving storms and treasure have become familiar. Yet now the ship carries additional meaning. Sailors claim that those who encounter it experience misfortune. Some insist vessels crossing its path later vanish. Others describe accidents occurring shortly after sightings. No one can verify every account. Nevertheless, the pattern feels convincing because it aligns with expectations already established by the disaster narrative. Imagine the role of coincidence in strengthening the legend. Coincidences occur constantly in human life. Most pass unnoticed. Yet when people expect connections, certain coincidences become memorable. Suppose a merchant ship reports seeing the pirate vessel in the distance. Days later, a storm damages that same vessel. Under ordinary circumstances, the events might be considered unrelated. Within the framework of the curse legend, however, they appear linked. Human beings are highly skilled at identifying patterns. This ability often proves useful. It also encourages us to connect events that may not share causal relationships. The cursed pirate ship benefits enormously from this tendency. Every apparent confirmation strengthens belief. Imagine sailors recounting stories during long voyages. Isolation encourages conversation. The sea provides endless opportunities for reflection. Legends thrive within such environments because they offer engaging explanations for difficult experiences. The cursed pirate ship becomes a favorite topic precisely because it combines multiple elements: treasure, betrayal, storms, disappearances, mystery. Each component attracts interest. Together they create a narrative capable of surviving repeated retellings. Every storyteller emphasizes different details. Some focus on greed. Others highlight supernatural punishment. A few stress the dangers of ignoring warnings. The legend adapts without losing identity. Imagine reports of sightings beginning to emerge after the disaster. A vessel matching the pirate ship's description appears briefly through fog. Another crew claims to have seen it near a storm. Someone else reports strange lights upon the horizon. Such observations are not unusual in maritime environments. Ships regularly encounter fog, changing visibility, and atmospheric effects. Yet within the context of an established legend, these experiences acquire greater significance. The cursed ship is expected to appear. Therefore, ambiguous sightings become easier to interpret. The narrative shapes perception. Sailors see not merely a vessel but a symbol. Imagine the emotional atmosphere aboard a ship after a reported sighting. Even skeptical crew members may feel uneasy. Stories possess power because they influence expectations. Once people believe misfortune may follow an encounter, they become more attentive to problems. Minor difficulties seem more important. Ordinary setbacks feel ominous. Anxiety spreads through conversation. The legend therefore affects experience directly. Whether the curse exists becomes less important than the fact that people believe it might. Belief alters perception. Perception influences memory. Memory sustains folklore. Imagine the pirate vessel itself gradually changing within the story. Historical details begin fading while symbolic elements become more prominent. The ship acquires characteristics associated with darkness and mystery. Its appearance grows more dramatic. Its history becomes more tragic. This evolution is common in folklore. Over time, narratives prioritize emotional resonance over factual precision. Audiences remember images and themes more easily than technical details. The cursed pirate ship therefore becomes less like a historical vessel and more like an archetype. It represents danger hidden beyond the horizon. Imagine maritime communities receiving conflicting reports about the ship's fate. Some sailors insist it sank during the Great Storm. Others claim it escaped. A few believe it still sails. Such disagreement actually strengthens the legend. Certainty often ends stories. Uncertainty preserves them. As long as people debate what happened, the narrative remains active. The ship's fate becomes a mystery inviting participation. Every listener forms an opinion. Every storyteller contributes another possibility. The legend survives because it remains unfinished. Imagine the broader cultural themes emerging from the story. The curse functions as more than a supernatural explanation. It expresses concerns about greed, violence, and consequences. Pirate ships occupy morally ambiguous spaces within folklore. Some audiences admire their independence. Others condemn their actions. The cursed pirate ship resolves this tension by presenting wrongdoing followed by punishment. The narrative suggests that actions matter. Wealth obtained through violence brings suffering. Betrayal creates lasting harm. Such themes appear repeatedly across cultures because they provide moral structure. Legends often survive when they communicate lessons alongside entertainment. Imagine generations of sailors hearing the story from those who came before. Details evolve. Settings change. Yet the core narrative remains recognizable. A feared pirate ship. A disastrous voyage. Treasure linked to misfortune. Sightings after apparent destruction. These elements combine into a legend capable of crossing oceans and centuries. The cursed pirate ship becomes part of maritime memory. Even individuals who doubt supernatural explanations may still appreciate the story's atmosphere and symbolism. Imagine standing on a windswept deck beneath dark clouds while listening to distant waves strike the hull. Somewhere beyond the horizon lies a vessel associated with centuries of fear and speculation. Whether it exists physically no longer matters. The ship has achieved something more enduring. It has entered folklore. The curse now belongs not only to the vessel but to the story itself. It refuses to disappear. And as sailors continue reporting strange sightings in fog, storms, and moonlit seas, the legend will only grow stronger. The pirate ship's historical journey may be over. Its legendary journey has only just begun. Part 4: Sightings in the Fog. As the legend of the cursed pirate ship spreads across the Atlantic world and the story of its disastrous final voyage becomes firmly established within maritime folklore, a remarkable transformation begins to occur. The ship is no longer remembered only as a vessel from the past. It becomes something sailors claim to encounter in the present. This shift marks one of the most fascinating stages in the evolution of maritime legends. Many stories remain confined to history. The cursed pirate ship does not. According to generations of sailors, the vessel continues appearing long after it should have vanished. It emerges from fog, drifts through storms, and disappears before anyone can approach it. Reports come from different crews, different oceans, and different periods of history. Whether these sightings involve supernatural forces, mistaken identification, atmospheric phenomena, or the powerful influence of expectation remains open to debate. What is certain is that the stories endure, and as they spread from ship to ship and port to port, the cursed pirate ship begins acquiring a reputation as one of the most mysterious ghost vessels ever associated with the sea. Imagine a merchant ship crossing the Atlantic during the late 18th century. Weeks have passed since departure. The crew follows familiar routines. Navigation continues steadily. The ocean stretches endlessly in every direction. Life at sea often involves long periods of predictability interrupted by moments of uncertainty. Sailors become accustomed to watching horizons carefully because unexpected changes can signal opportunity or danger. One morning, dense fog begins rolling across the water. Visibility declines gradually. Familiar landmarks disappear. The horizon itself vanishes. Such conditions are common at sea, yet they create unique psychological effects. Human beings rely heavily upon sight. When visibility becomes limited, imagination often becomes more active. Objects appear and disappear unexpectedly. Distances become difficult to judge. Ordinary observations acquire an air of mystery. Imagine a lookout standing watch near the bow of the ship. The fog surrounding the vessel shifts continuously. Shapes emerge briefly before fading again. Then something appears ahead. At first, it resembles nothing more than a dark silhouette. Gradually, the outline becomes clearer. It looks like a ship, yet something feels unusual. The vessel seems motionless despite the movement of the sea. The sails appear damaged or strangely shaped. The crew cannot identify its flag. Before anyone can study it properly, the fog thickens once more and the ship disappears. Encounters like this form the foundation of many ghost ship legends. The observation itself may be brief and ambiguous. The interpretation comes afterward. Imagine the conversations that follow. Sailors discuss what they saw. One insists the vessel matched descriptions of the cursed pirate ship. Another remains uncertain. A third recalls hearing similar stories in distant ports. Human beings naturally compare experiences with existing knowledge. If a legend already exists, it provides a framework for understanding ambiguous events. The cursed pirate ship therefore influences perception long before any sighting occurs. Sailors familiar with the story are more likely to interpret unusual observations through its lens. Imagine the atmosphere aboard a vessel after such a sighting. Even skeptical individuals may feel uneasy. Stories possess emotional power because they shape expectations. Once the possibility of encountering a ghost ship enters conversation, ordinary events acquire additional significance. Changes in weather seem meaningful. Strange sounds attract attention. Minor accidents appear ominous. The legend influences how people interpret subsequent experiences. This psychological effect contributes greatly to the persistence of maritime folklore. Imagine another sighting reported years later by a completely different crew. This time the ship appears at dusk. The sea remains calm, yet the vessel emerges suddenly from gathering mist. Witnesses describe dark sails and a weathered hull. Some claim the ship moves against the wind. Others insist no crew members are visible. Before anyone can approach, the vessel disappears into fog. The details vary, yet certain themes recur repeatedly. Sudden appearance, strange behavior, sudden disappearance. Such consistencies strengthen belief because human beings often trust patterns appearing across multiple accounts. Imagine sailors exchanging these stories in harbors scattered throughout the Atlantic world. A report originating in the Caribbean reaches Europe months later. Another account travels from North America to distant islands. Maritime communities form networks through which information moves continuously. The cursed pirate ship benefits from these connections. Every new sighting reinforces existing narratives. Every retelling introduces the story to new audiences. The legend grows stronger because it appears supported by repeated observation. Imagine the role of fog itself within these reports. Fog occupies a special place in maritime imagination because it transforms familiar environments into uncertain ones. Objects become difficult to identify accurately. Light behaves strangely. Distances lose clarity. The ocean feels different when visibility disappears. Such conditions encourage mystery naturally. Many ghost ship legends involve fog for precisely this reason. The environment supports ambiguity. A vessel glimpsed briefly through mist may seem far stranger than the same vessel observed clearly beneath bright sunlight. The cursed pirate ship therefore becomes closely associated with fog because fog creates ideal circumstances for unusual experiences. Imagine a sailor hearing stories about the vessel throughout an entire career. Every few years another report emerges. Someone claims to have seen the ship near a storm. Another describes encountering it during a calm night. Some accounts emphasize treasure. Others focus on the curse. Yet all agree on one point: the ship continues appearing. This persistence becomes central to the legend. Ghost ships differ from ordinary historical vessels because they refuse to remain in the past. They intrude upon the present repeatedly. The cursed pirate ship embodies this characteristic perfectly. Imagine the emotional significance of such stories. The sea often reminds sailors that complete knowledge is impossible. Horizons conceal information. Weather changes rapidly. Ships disappear from view. Maritime life contains inherent uncertainty. Ghost ship legends transform that uncertainty into narrative form. Instead of confronting abstract mystery, sailors confront a recognizable story. The cursed pirate ship becomes a symbol of the unknown. Every sighting reinforces that symbolism. Imagine standing watch during a foggy evening. The sea is quiet. Visibility remains limited. Somewhere beyond the mist, a dark shape appears briefly before fading away. Whether the explanation involves another vessel, an optical illusion, or something more unusual becomes secondary in the moment. What matters is the feeling created, the uncertainty, the curiosity, the unease. These emotions sustain legends. And as reports of the cursed pirate ship continue accumulating across generations, the vessel begins drifting further away from history and deeper into folklore. Yet the sightings themselves are only the beginning. For many sailors, seeing the ship was frightening not because of what it was, but because of what they believed would happen afterward. As reports of the cursed pirate ship continue spreading across oceans and generations, the vessel acquires a reputation extending far beyond simple mystery. Sailors do not merely claim to see it. They begin fearing what its appearance might mean. This development marks a crucial stage in the growth of the legend because ghost stories often become most powerful when they function as warnings. A mysterious ship is intriguing. A mysterious ship believed to predict disaster is terrifying. Over time, many mariners come to view sightings of the cursed pirate ship not as isolated events but as omens. The vessel's appearance is said to precede storms, accidents, disappearances, and other forms of misfortune. Whether these connections arise from coincidence, psychology, or something else entirely becomes less important than the belief itself. Once people expect disaster, every subsequent difficulty appears significant. The legend therefore gains strength through the interaction between expectation and experience. Imagine a merchant vessel crossing remote waters beneath an overcast sky. The voyage has been uneventful so far. Supplies remain adequate. Navigation proceeds normally. Then a lookout reports a strange ship visible through distant fog. Officers study the silhouette carefully. Something about the vessel seems unusual. Its position makes little sense. Its movements appear strange. The crew becomes aware of the sighting quickly because unusual observations attract attention at sea. Someone mentions the cursed pirate ship. The atmosphere changes immediately. Conversations become more cautious. Sailors watch the horizon more closely. The possibility of misfortune enters their minds. Imagine what happens if a storm develops shortly afterward. Storms are common. They occur regardless of ghost ship legends. Yet timing matters enormously in human perception. When two events happen close together, people naturally connect them. If a mysterious vessel appears and severe weather follows, the sequence feels meaningful. The cursed pirate ship therefore acquires predictive power not necessarily because it causes disasters, but because sailors remember occasions when sightings and misfortunes occur together. Events failing to fit the pattern are often forgotten. Events supporting the pattern are remembered vividly. This tendency contributes greatly to the development of omen traditions across cultures. Imagine generations of sailors sharing stories about such encounters. One crew reports seeing the vessel before a storm. Another describes a sighting preceding a navigational accident. A third recalls hearing rumors about a ship that vanished after encountering the ghostly pirate vessel. Each account strengthens the association between appearance and disaster. Human beings respond strongly to repeated narratives. Even if evidence remains incomplete, recurring stories create impressions of reliability. The cursed pirate ship gradually transforms from a mysterious object into a warning sign. Sailors fear not merely seeing it but experiencing what they believe comes next. Imagine the psychological effects aboard ships where the legend is well known. Maritime life already involves uncertainty. Weather changes unexpectedly. Equipment fails. Human errors occur. Once a crew believes disaster may be approaching, ordinary difficulties can feel more threatening. A broken rope, a navigation mistake, a sudden wind shift. Events that might otherwise seem routine acquire additional significance. The legend influences emotional states directly. Anxiety spreads through conversation. People become hyper-aware of potential dangers. In this way, folklore shapes experience as well as interpretation. Imagine a foggy morning during which a vessel matching the cursed ship's description appears briefly on the horizon. The sighting lasts only minutes. The ship vanishes before identification becomes possible. Yet discussion continues throughout the day. Crew members compare stories heard in different ports. Some insist the ship is real. Others remain skeptical. Regardless of personal beliefs, everyone becomes engaged. The legend creates a shared framework for understanding uncertainty. Human communities often rely upon such frameworks because they provide emotional structure. The cursed pirate ship organizes fear into narrative form. Imagine the role of memory in preserving these stories. Human memory favors emotionally significant experiences. A sighting followed by nothing unusual may fade quickly. A sighting followed by a dramatic storm becomes unforgettable. Sailors recount memorable events repeatedly. Repetition strengthens memory. Over time, the story acquires greater clarity and confidence than the original observation may have possessed. This process occurs naturally. It does not require deliberate exaggeration. People simply remember emotionally meaningful patterns more effectively than ordinary events. The cursed pirate ship benefits enormously from this tendency. Imagine the vessel itself within the evolving legend. Historical details become increasingly secondary. What matters is symbolism. The ship represents consequences. It represents unresolved mysteries. It represents the possibility that past wrongdoing continues influencing the present. Such themes resonate because they address broader human concerns. People often worry that actions produce effects extending beyond immediate circumstances. The cursed pirate ship embodies this idea. Its supposed appearances remind sailors that the past may not remain buried. Imagine maritime communities receiving reports from distant regions. One sighting occurs in the Caribbean. Another emerges from the North Atlantic. A third is reported near remote islands. The geographic spread strengthens the legend because it suggests persistence. The ship is not confined to a single location. It wanders. This mobility distinguishes ghost ships from many other folklore traditions. The cursed pirate ship can appear wherever sailors travel. Consequently, the legend remains relevant across vast distances. Imagine a young sailor hearing the story for the first time while preparing for a long voyage. Older crew members describe encounters. They speak about storms following sightings. They recount tales of vanished ships and cursed treasure. Whether the young sailor believes every detail is less important than the emotional impression created. The story becomes part of maritime culture. It provides context for future experiences. If unusual events occur, the legend offers interpretation. This cultural transmission ensures survival across generations. Imagine standing on a deck surrounded by dense fog while waves strike softly against the hull. Somewhere beyond visibility lies the possibility of another ship. Perhaps it is ordinary. Perhaps it is not. The uncertainty itself becomes powerful. The cursed pirate ship thrives within such moments because it transforms ambiguity into narrative. Sailors no longer fear only the vessel. They fear the unknown future it supposedly predicts. And as stories of disasters following sightings continue accumulating, the legend grows darker still. The ship has become more than a ghost. It has become an omen. And soon, that reputation will carry the story far beyond the waters where it first began, spreading the curse across oceans and generations alike. Part 5: A Warning Before Disaster. As the legend of the cursed pirate ship continues spreading through ports, merchant fleets, fishing communities, and naval crews across the Atlantic world, the vessel becomes associated with something even more frightening than mystery. It becomes associated with prediction. For many sailors, the ship is no longer merely a strange sight glimpsed through fog. It is a warning, a sign, an omen that something terrible may soon occur. Throughout human history, people have often searched for indicators of future danger. In uncertain environments, signs become especially important. Farmers watch the sky for changes in weather. Travelers pay attention to unusual conditions along roads. Sailors observe winds, clouds, currents, and countless details influencing survival. The sea rewards attentiveness because danger often arrives with little warning. Within this context, the cursed pirate ship acquires extraordinary significance. If its appearance truly precedes disaster, then recognizing the omen might provide precious time to prepare. Whether the belief proves accurate becomes less important than the emotional influence it exerts. Once a warning is expected, every unusual event appears meaningful. Imagine a merchant vessel crossing the Caribbean during hurricane season. The weather remains unstable. Clouds gather and disperse repeatedly. Crew members monitor conditions carefully because experience teaches them how quickly the sea can change. One evening, a strange vessel appears briefly through distant mist. It matches descriptions associated with the cursed pirate ship. Dark sails, weathered appearance, no visible crew. The sighting lasts only a short time before the ship vanishes. Under ordinary circumstances, the event might be dismissed as uncertainty created by distance and weather. Yet because the legend already exists, the crew interprets the sighting differently. The possibility of disaster immediately enters conversation. Imagine the psychological atmosphere aboard the ship afterward. Sailors become more alert. Small problems receive greater attention. Routine tasks feel unusually important. The captain may order additional precautions. Crew members discuss stories heard in previous ports. Some recall tales of storms following sightings. Others remember reports of shipwrecks. The legend shapes expectations. This effect is powerful because human beings rarely experience events in isolation. We understand the present through stories about the past. The cursed pirate ship therefore influences behavior long before any disaster occurs. Imagine a severe storm arriving several days later. Such storms are common in tropical waters. Yet within the context of the legend, the timing feels significant. The sighting came first. The storm followed. The sequence reinforces belief. Human beings naturally remember patterns appearing meaningful. If the ship is seen and nothing happens, the incident may be forgotten. If misfortune follows, the story becomes memorable. Over time, these memorable cases accumulate while contradictory examples fade. This process helps explain why omen traditions often become deeply rooted despite limited evidence. Imagine sailors returning to port after surviving such a storm. They recount the experience to others. The story spreads. Listeners focus on the connection between sighting and disaster. Future crews hear the tale before departing on their own voyages. Expectations are transmitted alongside information. The legend gains strength because every retelling emphasizes confirmation. Folklore often survives through precisely this mechanism. Narratives aligning with emotional experiences remain memorable. Narratives lacking emotional impact disappear. The cursed pirate ship becomes increasingly associated with danger because stories linking it to danger survive more effectively than alternative interpretations. Imagine another vessel encountering the phantom ship under completely different circumstances. This time the sea remains calm. Visibility is excellent. Yet shortly after the sighting, a navigational mistake places the ship in danger. Again, the sequence feels meaningful. The disaster need not involve weather. Any misfortune may serve the same narrative function. Equipment failures, accidents, illness, delays. Human beings possess remarkable flexibility when connecting events. Once a symbol becomes associated with bad luck, almost any negative outcome can reinforce the relationship. The cursed pirate ship gradually acquires this symbolic role. Imagine the emotional burden carried by sailors operating within such a belief system. Maritime life already contains genuine hazards. The addition of supernatural concerns increases uncertainty further. A sailor who sees the cursed vessel may spend days anticipating disaster. Anxiety influences perception. Ordinary difficulties seem larger. Ambiguous situations appear threatening. The legend therefore affects experience directly. Whether the ship possesses supernatural power becomes secondary. The belief itself produces real consequences. Imagine the role of storytelling in preserving these associations. Long voyages provide abundant opportunities for conversation. Sailors exchange experiences during watches, meals, and periods of calm weather. Stories serve practical purposes. They entertain, they educate, they create community. The cursed pirate ship excels in all three categories. Provides suspense, communicates caution. It reinforces shared cultural knowledge. As a result, the legend spreads efficiently through maritime networks. Imagine a harbor tavern filled with sailors from different regions. One crew reports seeing the ship near the Bahamas. Another recalls a sighting near Bermuda. A third describes hearing stories from the North Atlantic. The geographic diversity of these reports strengthens belief. The vessel seems capable of appearing anywhere. Its reach extends across oceans. Such mobility makes the legend difficult to dismiss because no single location contains it. The cursed pirate ship belongs to the sea itself. Imagine the symbolic significance of warnings within maritime culture. Sailors often respect signs because survival depends upon recognizing danger early. Storm clouds, changing winds, and unusual wave patterns all provide valuable information. The cursed pirate ship becomes incorporated into this broader tradition of attentiveness. Even individuals skeptical of supernatural explanations may still appreciate the practical lesson embedded within the story. Remain alert. Do not ignore unusual circumstances. Respect uncertainty. These messages possess value regardless of belief. The legend therefore functions simultaneously as folklore and cultural instruction. Imagine centuries of sailors repeating the same pattern. A mysterious sighting occurs. Misfortune follows. The story spreads. New generations inherit the narrative. Over time, the connection between appearance and disaster becomes deeply embedded within maritime memory. The cursed pirate ship transforms from a ghost story into a warning system shaped by fear, experience, and repetition. Whether the omen possesses any objective reality becomes almost irrelevant. Its influence is real because people act as though it matters. And as more stories accumulate, the ship's reputation grows darker still. Seeing it is no longer merely unsettling. For many sailors, it becomes one of the most frightening experiences imaginable because it suggests that something terrible may already be on its way. As stories linking the cursed pirate ship to disaster continue spreading throughout maritime communities and the vessel's reputation as an omen becomes firmly established, the legend begins revealing something deeper about the relationship between fear and uncertainty. Human beings have always searched for signs helping them anticipate future events. This tendency appears in countless cultures and historical periods. People observe animal behavior, weather patterns, celestial events, and unusual occurrences looking for clues about what may come next. In many cases, these observations contain practical value. In others, they evolve into folklore. The cursed pirate ship occupies a fascinating position between these worlds. It emerges from genuine maritime experiences while simultaneously serving as a symbolic warning. Understanding why sailors feared its appearance requires understanding how the human mind responds to environments where outcomes remain unpredictable. Imagine a crew crossing remote waters far from any coastline. The horizon extends endlessly. Communication with the outside world is impossible. Weather conditions can change rapidly. Under such circumstances, uncertainty becomes a constant presence. Sailors learn to pay attention because inattentiveness can prove costly. Every cloud formation, wind shift, and unusual sound may carry information. This habit of observation helps explain why legends involving omens become so influential at sea. The environment already encourages vigilance. The cursed pirate ship simply provides a dramatic object upon which vigilance can focus. Imagine a lookout reporting a strange vessel visible through fog. The observation itself may remain ambiguous. Distance obscures details. Weather complicates identification. Yet ambiguity often increases emotional impact rather than reducing it. Human beings frequently find uncertain threats more disturbing than clearly defined. Part 6. The legend spreads across oceans. As the cursed pirate ship becomes firmly established within maritime folklore and sailors increasingly view its appearance as a warning of approaching misfortune, the legend begins a remarkable journey of its own. Unlike ordinary vessels that travel from one port to another, stories can cross oceans without regard for weather, distance, or time. A ship may sink, disappear, or decay, but a compelling story often survives long after the physical object that inspired it has vanished. This transformation from local rumor to international legend represents one of the most fascinating stages in the life of maritime folklore. The cursed pirate ship no longer belongs solely to the waters where it supposedly sailed. It begins appearing in stories told thousands of miles away. Sailors from different nations hear about it. Ports separated by vast distances repeat similar accounts. The legend becomes part of a shared maritime culture connecting people who may never meet yet recognize the same tale. Understanding how this happens reveals much about the power of storytelling and the unique world created by life at sea. Imagine a merchant vessel arriving at a busy Caribbean harbor after months of travel. The crew steps ashore eager for rest, food, and conversation. Almost immediately, stories begin circulating. News at sea moves differently than on land. Information travels through people rather than newspapers alone. Sailors exchange experiences, rumors, warnings, and observations. A single remarkable story may spread through dozens of ships within days. The cursed pirate ship benefits enormously from this system because it possesses all the qualities necessary for survival. It is mysterious. It is frightening. It involves treasure, betrayal, storms, and unexplained appearances. Most importantly, it addresses concerns familiar to anyone who spends time on the ocean. Imagine a sailor hearing the legend in one harbor and carrying it to another months later. By the time the story arrives, certain details have changed. New elements have been added. Others have disappeared. Yet the core narrative remains recognizable. Pirate ship, curse, sightings after its disappearance, misfortune following encounters. These essential features survive because they give the story identity. Folklore often changes while preserving its central themes. The cursed pirate ship demonstrates this process beautifully. It adapts without losing itself. Imagine the 18th-century Atlantic world as a network of interconnected routes. Ships travel between Europe, Africa, the Caribbean, and the Americas. Goods move continuously, so do ideas. Sailors act as carriers of culture. They bring songs, superstitions, news, and legends wherever they go. The cursed pirate ship therefore spreads naturally. A story heard in Jamaica may later appear in Boston. A rumor originating near the Bahamas may eventually reach London. Maritime communities function as conduits through which narratives travel. The sea, often perceived as a barrier, becomes a pathway for folklore. Imagine how different cultures interpret the same legend. A British sailor may emphasize the dangers of piracy. A Spanish sailor may focus on the treasure. A Dutch mariner may highlight the ghostly sightings. Each audience brings its own perspectives. Yet the story remains recognizable because its emotional foundations are universal. Fear of the unknown, anxiety about storms, curiosity regarding unexplained events, respect for the sea's power. These themes transcend nationality. The cursed pirate ship becomes successful folklore because it speaks to experiences shared across maritime communities. Imagine a harbor tavern illuminated by lantern light. Sailors from several nations gather together after long voyages. Conversation turns toward strange events at sea. Someone mentions the cursed pirate ship. Immediately others recognize the reference. Details differ, yet familiarity exists. Such moments help transform local stories into international legends. Recognition creates continuity. The tale becomes part of a collective maritime identity. Imagine reports emerging from increasingly distant waters. Originally associated with a particular region, the cursed ship now appears in stories set elsewhere. A crew claims to have seen it near Bermuda. Another reports a sighting in the North Atlantic. A third describes encountering it far from its supposed historical range. Such geographic expansion is common within folklore. Once a legend becomes popular, it is no longer constrained by original circumstances. The ship can appear wherever audiences find the story meaningful. Mobility strengthens the narrative because it keeps the legend relevant. No sailor can dismiss it as someone else's problem. Imagine the role of printed material during later stages of the legend's development. Newspapers, magazines, and books begin spreading maritime stories beyond sailors themselves. Reports of mysterious sightings reach broader audiences. People who have never sailed hear about the cursed pirate ship. The legend enters popular culture. This transition is important because it provides additional methods of preservation. Oral traditions remain powerful, but printed accounts increase stability. Stories survive longer when they exist in multiple forms. The cursed pirate ship therefore gains new life through publication. Imagine readers fascinated by tales of ghost ships and maritime mysteries. Many live far from the ocean, yet the legend still resonates. This broader appeal reveals something significant. The story no longer depends solely upon maritime experience. It addresses universal themes: mystery, consequences, unfinished journeys. Human beings everywhere respond to such ideas. The cursed pirate ship becomes more than a sailor's tale. It becomes a cultural symbol. Imagine generations passing while the story continues evolving. Grandfathers tell it to grandchildren. Experienced mariners share it with newcomers. Writers adapt it for new audiences. Each retelling alters details slightly, yet the emotional atmosphere remains consistent. The ship is dangerous. The ship is mysterious. The ship should not be ignored. Such consistency allows the legend to survive remarkable changes in historical circumstances. Imagine the irony at the heart of the story. The pirate vessel supposedly carries a curse preventing it from disappearing. In a symbolic sense, that curse proves real. Not because the ship literally continues sailing, but because the story refuses to vanish. The legend itself becomes immortal. Every generation inherits it from those who came before. Every new audience contributes to its survival. As the cursed pirate ship drifts across oceans of memory and imagination, it acquires a reach far greater than any historical vessel could ever achieve. And with each new retelling, the story grows stronger, preparing to become one of the sea's most enduring legends. As the legend of the cursed pirate ship expands beyond its original maritime setting and becomes known throughout distant ports, coastal communities, and eventually the wider world, it begins revealing one of the most remarkable characteristics of folklore. Stories often survive because they satisfy needs extending beyond entertainment. They help people understand uncertainty. They preserve cultural memory. They provide symbols through which fears and hopes can be expressed. The cursed pirate ship succeeds because it performs all of these functions simultaneously. By the time the legend reaches its most mature form, it is no longer simply a tale about a specific vessel. It has become a framework through which generations interpret the dangers, mysteries, and unpredictability of life at sea. Imagine a young sailor hearing the story for the first time. The details immediately capture attention. A feared pirate ship, hidden treasure, betrayal among the crew, terrible disaster, sightings after destruction, warnings of approaching misfortune. The narrative contains everything necessary to stimulate imagination. Yet beneath the dramatic surface lies something deeper. The story addresses genuine concerns. Sailors know ships can disappear. They know storms arrive unexpectedly. They understand how quickly circumstances can change. The legend feels plausible because it grows from realities they already recognize. Imagine maritime folklore as a vast collection of interconnected stories passed between generations. Some tales concern storms. Others involve sea monsters, ghost lights, mysterious islands, or vanished ships. The cursed pirate ship finds its place within this tradition because it combines elements from many different categories. It is part ghost story, part cautionary tale, part historical mystery, and part moral narrative. Such versatility contributes greatly to longevity. Audiences with different interests can all find something meaningful within it. Imagine a coastal village where sailors return from long voyages carrying stories from distant waters. Community members gather to listen. News from the outside world remains valuable because information travels slowly. Stories therefore perform practical as well as social functions. They entertain listeners while simultaneously conveying lessons and warnings. The cursed pirate ship excels in this environment. It is memorable enough to hold attention and meaningful enough to justify repetition. Every retelling reinforces community identity. The legend becomes something shared. Imagine how the story evolves as it encounters different audiences. Some communities emphasize supernatural elements. Others focus on historical possibilities. Certain versions portray the ship as an omen. Others describe it as a punishment for greed and betrayal. These variations do not weaken the legend. On the contrary, they strengthen it. Flexible stories survive because they can adapt to changing circumstances. The cursed pirate ship remains relevant precisely because it accommodates multiple interpretations. Each generation discovers meanings suited to its own concerns. Imagine the emotional atmosphere surrounding ghost ship legends generally. Unlike monsters or mythical creatures, ghost ships possess a unique quality. They resemble ordinary vessels. They occupy familiar environments. They represent things people actually encounter. This familiarity makes them particularly effective symbols. A ghost ship appears possible. It exists close enough to reality that imagination can easily bridge the remaining gap. The cursed pirate ship benefits from this advantage. Sailors already expect to see ships. The legend merely asks them to consider the possibility that one ship is different. Imagine reports of sightings continuing long after the supposed historical events fade into memory. New generations no longer know precise details about the original pirate vessel. Yet they continue hearing stories about encounters. This persistence transforms the ship into a timeless figure. Historical context becomes less important than symbolic function. The vessel represents unfinished business, consequences that refuse to disappear, the lingering presence of the past within the present. Such themes resonate because they address experiences familiar to many people. Imagine the role of mystery in sustaining the legend. Human beings enjoy stories that resist complete explanation. A solved mystery often loses some of its appeal. An unsolved mystery invites participation. Every listener becomes an investigator. Every storyteller contributes another theory. The cursed pirate ship remains compelling because questions persist. Did the ship really exist? What happened during its final voyage? Were the sightings genuine? No definitive answers emerge. The uncertainty itself becomes valuable. Imagine the sea as the perfect environment for such stories. Oceans conceal information naturally. Horizons limit visibility. Storms erase evidence. Shipwrecks disappear beneath waves. Even modern technology cannot eliminate every mystery associated with maritime environments. Earlier generations experienced even greater uncertainty. The cursed pirate ship therefore feels appropriate because it belongs to a landscape already rich with unanswered questions. Part 7: History Hidden Beneath the Myth. As the legend of the cursed pirate ship drifts through centuries of storytelling and becomes firmly established as one of the sea's most enduring ghostly tales, we arrive at an important turning point in our journey. Until now, we have explored the world of folklore, rumor, sightings, omens, and maritime fear. We have followed a vessel that seemed to move beyond history and enter the realm of myth. Yet many legends, no matter how fantastical they appear, often contain fragments of reality hidden beneath layers of storytelling. Human beings rarely create enduring stories from nothing. More often, myths grow from real events, real places, and real people whose experiences become transformed over time. The cursed pirate ship may be no exception. To understand the truth behind the legend, we must leave the world of ghostly sightings for a moment and return to the historical realities of the golden age of piracy. There, among merchant fleets, naval patrols, hidden coves, and dangerous waters, we may discover the origins of a story that refused to disappear. Imagine the Caribbean during the late 17th and early 18th centuries. The region is alive with maritime activity. Merchant ships carry valuable cargo between continents. Naval vessels protect national interests. Privateers operate under government authority. Pirates seek opportunities wherever wealth travels. It is a world filled with movement, competition, and risk. Thousands of ships cross these waters over the course of decades. Some complete successful voyages. Others disappear. Many leave only partial records behind. This reality is important because legends often emerge where information becomes incomplete. When facts are missing, stories fill the gaps. Imagine a pirate ship operating successfully for several years. Historical records show that many pirate vessels achieved remarkable notoriety. Some were feared throughout entire regions. Their names spread rapidly. Survivors described encounters. Authorities issued warnings. Newspapers occasionally reported their activities. Such ships became famous during their own lifetimes. Yet fame creates opportunities for legend. The more widely a vessel is known, the more likely its story will survive after its disappearance. The cursed pirate ship may therefore reflect a pattern common throughout maritime history. A real vessel acquires a reputation. The vessel disappears. Stories continue evolving long after the historical record ends. Imagine the fate of many pirate ships. Contrary to popular imagination, few enjoyed long careers. Naval forces hunted them aggressively. Storms destroyed vessels regularly. Internal conflicts weakened crews. Some pirates accepted pardons. Others were captured. Ships were wrecked, abandoned, or repurposed. The historical reality is therefore filled with sudden endings. Yet sudden endings often create narrative opportunities. If a vessel disappears without complete documentation, uncertainty remains. Human beings dislike uncertainty. We seek explanations. The absence of definitive answers encourages speculation. Imagine a feared pirate ship vanishing during a storm. No survivors return. No wreck is located. Such events occurred repeatedly throughout maritime history. For historians, the likely explanation involves weather and circumstance. For folklore, however, the possibilities are endless. Treasure may still be aboard. Betrayal may have occurred. Curse may be responsible. The lack of evidence becomes fertile ground for imagination. The cursed pirate ship legend fits comfortably within this pattern. Imagine historical pirate captains whose reputations became larger than life. Men such as Edward Teach, Charles Vane, and Bartholomew Roberts inspired fear not merely because of their actions but because of their reputations. Stories circulated rapidly. Enemies exaggerated dangers. Admirers amplified successes. Over time, the distinction between person and legend blurred. The same process often affected ships. A vessel associated with a famous pirate could acquire symbolic significance extending far beyond its actual history. The cursed pirate ship may therefore represent a composite creation, drawing inspiration from multiple real ships and multiple historical events, rather than a single source. Imagine sailors hearing reports from different ports. One story concerns a pirate vessel lost during a storm. Another involves treasure never recovered. A third describes crew members turning against one another. Individually, these stories remain separate. Over generations, however, folklore often combines related narratives. Themes merge. Details migrate from one story to another. Eventually, a single legendary ship emerges carrying characteristics originally associated with many different vessels. This process occurs frequently within oral traditions because communities prioritize memorable narratives over strict historical accuracy. The cursed pirate ship may be understood as the product of such cultural blending. Imagine the role of shipwrecks in inspiring maritime legends. The ocean conceals evidence effectively. Wrecks disappear beneath waves. Cargo scatters. Records vanish. Entire voyages can become mysteries. Historical archives contain countless references to ships simply listed as missing. For families and communities affected by such losses, uncertainty can be painful. Stories provide closure where facts cannot. A vanished ship becomes a ghost ship. An unexplained disappearance becomes evidence of a curse. Folklore transforms absence into narrative. Imagine treasure legends attached to these disappearances. Wealth that vanishes creates enduring fascination because it represents unresolved possibility. Lost treasure remains forever available to imagination. Hidden riches inspire exploration, speculation, and storytelling. The cursed pirate ship legend incorporates treasure because treasure helps sustain interest across generations. People continue asking questions. Where did it go? Was it ever found? Could it still exist? Such questions keep stories alive long after historical details fade. Imagine historians attempting to reconstruct events behind maritime legends. They examine shipping records, court documents, newspaper reports, and personal accounts. Sometimes clear connections emerge. More often, evidence remains incomplete. This incompleteness does not invalidate folklore. Instead, it reveals how legends develop. Stories grow within spaces left open by uncertainty. The cursed pirate ship becomes understandable not as a literal supernatural vessel, but as a cultural response to unanswered questions. Imagine standing in a maritime archive surrounded by centuries-old records. Some pages remain damaged. Others contain only fragments. Names appear briefly before disappearing from history. Yet stories survive where documents fail. The cursed pirate ship legend endures because it preserves emotional truths about maritime life. Fear of storms, fear of betrayal, fear of disappearance, respect for the sea's power. These realities existed regardless of whether a specific cursed vessel ever sailed. As we continue uncovering the history hidden beneath the myth, a fascinating possibility emerges. Perhaps the legend survived not because sailors encountered a ghost ship, but because they repeatedly encountered real dangers that the ghost ship came to symbolize. As we continue searching for the historical foundations hidden beneath the legend of the cursed pirate ship, a broader picture begins to emerge. The story may not originate from a single dramatic event or a single famous vessel. Instead, it may represent something far more interesting. Many of history's most enduring legends are not direct accounts of specific incidents. They are cultural mosaics created from numerous experiences woven together over time. The cursed pirate ship appears to follow this pattern. Rather than asking whether one particular ship inspired the tale, historians often ask a different question. What realities of maritime life encouraged such a legend to develop in the first place? The answer leads us into the daily experiences of sailors, pirates, merchants, and coastal communities who lived during an age when uncertainty was an unavoidable part of existence. Imagine the life of an ordinary sailor during the 18th century. Voyages lasted months. Communication with home was impossible. Weather forecasting did not exist. Navigation remained challenging despite considerable skill and experience. Ships disappeared frequently enough that many losses attracted little attention beyond immediate communities. Families sometimes waited years for news that never arrived. In such a world, mystery was not unusual. It was expected. The sea concealed information naturally. Horizons limited visibility. Storms erased evidence. Human beings confronted unanswered questions regularly. Legends therefore emerged not because people were unusually superstitious, but because they lived within environments where complete explanations were often unavailable. Imagine a merchant ship leaving port carrying valuable cargo. Weeks later, it fails to arrive at its destination. What happened? Perhaps a storm destroyed it. Perhaps navigational errors led to disaster. Perhaps pirates attacked. Without survivors, certainty becomes impossible. Communities must decide how to interpret absence. Stories provide one method. Folklore often functions as a response to uncertainty. It transforms unanswered questions into narratives capable of being remembered and shared. The cursed pirate ship legend reflects this process. It offers explanations where evidence remains incomplete. Imagine the role of piracy within these uncertainties. Pirates occupied a unique position in maritime culture. They were real threats, yet they also became larger-than-life figures within public imagination. Newspapers reported their activities. Governments issued warnings. Sailors exchanged stories about encounters. Pirate vessels therefore possessed unusually strong symbolic power. A merchant ship lost at sea might be forgotten. A pirate ship associated with treasure, violence, and mystery was far more likely to inspire storytelling. The cursed pirate ship draws strength from this symbolic richness. It combines historical realities with emotional significance. Imagine the countless shipwrecks scattered across the ocean floor. Many remain undiscovered today. During the golden age of piracy, knowledge about such losses was even more limited. A vessel could vanish completely. No wreckage would be found. No survivors would return. These disappearances encouraged speculation because human beings naturally seek closure. We prefer conclusions. When conclusions remain unavailable, stories emerge. Some explanations remain practical. Others become imaginative. Over generations, imaginative explanations often prove more memorable. The cursed pirate ship survives because it transforms uncertainty into narrative drama. Imagine sailors observing strange phenomena at sea. Atmospheric conditions create unusual visual effects. Fog obscures identification. Mirages alter perceptions. Distant ships appear distorted. Such experiences are real and well documented. Yet, before scientific explanations became widely understood, many observations seemed mysterious. A vessel appearing unexpectedly through mist could easily acquire supernatural significance, especially if listeners already knew stories about ghost ships. The cursed pirate ship legend likely benefited from these environmental conditions. The sea itself encouraged mystery. Imagine a sailor hearing multiple stories during a career spanning decades. One tale concerns lost treasure. Another involves mutiny. A third describes a ship seen after its destruction. Individually, these narratives remain separate. Yet memory often organizes information according to themes rather than strict chronology. Similar stories become connected. Shared motifs emerge. Over time, folklore combines related elements into coherent legends. The cursed pirate ship may therefore represent a cultural synthesis rather than a historical report. It gathers together fears, experiences, and mysteries already present within maritime life. Imagine the importance of moral themes within folklore. Stories often survive because they communicate lessons. The cursed pirate ship frequently emphasizes greed, betrayal, and consequences. Such themes appear across cultures because they address recurring human concerns. Audiences find them meaningful. Historical pirates certainly pursued wealth. Conflicts undoubtedly occurred. Yet folklore transforms these realities into symbolic narratives. The curse becomes a mechanism through which communities explore ideas about responsibility and justice. Imagine how coastal communities contributed to preserving such stories. Many people never sailed far from shore. Nevertheless, they depended upon maritime trade and maintained close relationships with sailors. News from the sea influenced local economies and daily life. Stories arriving from distant waters therefore attracted attention. The cursed pirate ship became part of shared cultural memory because it connected ordinary people to the larger, mysterious world beyond the horizon. Legends often thrive when they bridge familiar and unfamiliar experiences. Imagine the 19th century arriving long after the golden age of piracy has ended. Pirate ships no longer dominate shipping routes. Naval power increases. Maritime systems become more organized. Yet the legend survives. This persistence reveals something important. The story no longer depends upon contemporary piracy. Instead, it functions as cultural heritage. People continue telling it because it remains meaningful. The cursed pirate ship becomes a symbol rather than a historical subject. Its survival demonstrates the remarkable resilience of folklore. Imagine modern historians examining these legends. Their goal is not necessarily to prove or disprove supernatural claims. Rather, they seek to understand why stories endure. The cursed pirate ship offers valuable insights into maritime culture. It reveals how communities responded to uncertainty. It shows how fear and curiosity interacted. It demonstrates how historical events become transformed through collective memory. In this sense, the legend possesses genuine historical value regardless of its factual accuracy. Imagine standing once more beside the sea at dusk. Waves move toward shore just as they did centuries ago. Ships continue crossing oceans. Storms continue forming. Mysteries continue emerging. The environments that inspired maritime folklore have not disappeared completely. The cursed pirate ship therefore remains relevant because it speaks to experiences still recognizable today. We continue confronting uncertainty. We continue searching for meaning. We continue telling stories. And perhaps that is the deepest historical truth hidden within the myth. The legend survived not because a cursed ship refused to disappear, but because the fears, questions, and hopes that created it never truly disappeared either. Part 8: Fear, Memory, and the Sea. As we move deeper into the truth behind the legend of the cursed pirate ship, and leave behind questions of treasure, disappearances, and ghostly sightings, we arrive at something perhaps even more fascinating than the legend itself. We arrive at the human mind. Throughout history, the sea has not only challenged ships and sailors. It has challenged perception, memory, and imagination. Oceans possess a unique ability to make people feel both connected and isolated at the same time. A ship may carry dozens of crew members, yet those aboard can still feel profoundly alone when surrounded by thousands of miles of open water. In such environments, stories become more than entertainment. They become tools for understanding uncertainty. They help explain fear. They provide structure in situations where complete knowledge is impossible. The cursed pirate ship survived for centuries not simply because sailors saw strange things at sea, but because the legend reflected how human beings naturally respond to mystery. To understand why the story endured, we must first understand the emotional world of those who spent their lives upon the ocean. Imagine standing watch aboard a merchant vessel during the 18th century. Night has fallen. The The sea stretches endlessly in every direction. Clouds occasionally cover the stars. The ship creaks softly as waves move beneath the hull. Most of the crew are asleep. Only a few remain awake, responsible for monitoring the vessel and watching the horizon. Such moments can be peaceful. They can also be unsettling. Human beings evolved in environments filled with familiar landmarks. Trees, hills, buildings, and pathways help orient perception. The open ocean provides very few such references. Distances become difficult to judge. Sounds travel strangely across water. Light behaves differently than on land. These conditions influence perception in subtle yet important ways. Imagine a distant light appearing upon the horizon. The observer cannot immediately identify its source. It may be another ship. It may be a reflection. It may be an atmospheric effect. The uncertainty itself becomes significant. Human beings naturally seek explanations. We are pattern-seeking creatures. When information is incomplete, the mind begins filling gaps. This tendency often proves useful. It allows us to make decisions despite uncertainty. Yet it can also encourage interpretations shaped by expectation. If sailors already know stories about ghost ships, unusual observations may seem more meaningful. The cursed pirate ship therefore benefits from a psychological process common to all human beings. We interpret experiences through frameworks already present within our minds. Imagine a sailor hearing stories about the cursed vessel throughout an entire career. Older mariners discuss sightings. Harbor conversations reinforce the legend. Reports emerge from different regions. The story becomes familiar long before any personal encounter occurs. Then one evening, an unusual ship appears briefly through fog. The observation may be ambiguous. Yet ambiguity rarely remains empty. Existing narratives rush in to provide meaning. The sailor does not simply see a ship. The sailor sees a possibility, a story, a warning. The legend shapes perception by offering interpretation before complete evidence becomes available. Imagine how memory contributes to this process. Human memory is not a perfect recording device. It does not preserve experiences exactly as they occurred. Instead, memory reconstructs events whenever they are recalled. Emotion plays an important role in determining what is remembered and how it is remembered. Experiences associated with fear, excitement, or uncertainty often become especially vivid. A sailor who believes they encountered the cursed pirate ship is likely to remember the event strongly. Repeated retelling reinforces certain details while other details fade. Over time, the story may become clearer than the original observation itself. This transformation is natural. It occurs in everyday life as well as folklore. Imagine a crew discussing a mysterious sighting after returning to port. Each individual contributes observations. Some details agree, others differ. Through conversation, a collective version of the event emerges. This shared narrative often feels more reliable than individual memories because it reflects community consensus. Yet consensus does not guarantee accuracy. It reflects social processes through which experiences become stories. The cursed pirate ship survives partly because countless such conversations occurred across generations. Individual observations entered collective memory. Collective memory preserved the legend. Imagine the role of fear in strengthening these narratives. Fear focuses attention. It encourages vigilance. It also increases the emotional significance of experiences. A sailor frightened by a sighting is more likely to discuss it afterward. Listeners pay attention because fear is contagious. Stories involving danger spread efficiently because people consider them useful. The cursed pirate ship therefore benefits from emotional intensity. The legend feels important because it addresses concerns already present within maritime life. fear of storms, fear of shipwrecks, fear of disappearance, fear of uncertainty. The ghostly vessel becomes a symbol through which these anxieties can be expressed. Imagine long voyages lasting months. During such journeys, sailors spend extensive time thinking, observing, and talking. Stories provide entertainment, but they also provide structure. Maritime life contains long periods of routine interrupted by brief moments of crisis. Legends help connect these experiences into coherent narratives. The cursed pirate ship becomes part of the cultural vocabulary through which sailors understand the sea. It offers explanations, provides warnings. It transforms abstract fears into recognizable images. Imagine a young sailor hearing the legend for the first time. The story immediately captures attention because it combines mystery with practical relevance. Unlike distant myths involving fantastical creatures, the cursed pirate ship inhabits familiar environments. It appears where sailors already travel. It resembles vessels they already know. This familiarity increases emotional impact. The ghost ship feels possible. The possibility alone is enough to sustain interest. Imagine centuries passing while technology changes dramatically. Navigation improves. Scientific knowledge expands. Communication becomes faster. Yet the legend survives. Why? Because the underlying psychological processes remain constant. Human beings continue seeking patterns. We continue interpreting ambiguous experiences through stories. We continue remembering emotionally significant events. The cursed pirate ship persists because it aligns with enduring features of human cognition. It reflects how people make sense of uncertainty. Imagine standing once more upon a quiet deck at night. The horizon is invisible. The sea is vast. Somewhere beyond sight lies the unknown. That unknown has always inspired stories. The cursed pirate ship may not represent a literal supernatural vessel, but it represents something equally real. It represents the human desire to understand what cannot be fully known. And that desire, more than any curse, may explain why the legend has endured for so long. Part 9: The Dark Legend That Refused to Die. As our journey through the legend of the cursed pirate ship approaches its final horizon and the fog that has surrounded the story for centuries begins to lift, we arrive at perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the entire tale. The ship itself may have vanished long ago. The pirates who supposedly sailed aboard it have disappeared into history. The treasure, if it ever existed, remains lost or forgotten. The storms have passed. The ports where sailors once exchanged these stories have changed beyond recognition. Yet the legend survives. It continues drifting through books, conversations, documentaries, maritime histories, and the imaginations of people who may never have stepped aboard a ship in their lives. This persistence raises an important question. Why do some stories disappear while others endure for centuries? Why has the cursed pirate ship refused to vanish? The answer reveals something profound not only about folklore, but about human beings themselves. Imagine the countless legends that once circulated through maritime communities. Thousands of stories were told in harbor taverns, aboard merchant vessels, and around coastal fires. Most of those stories have been lost. Their details faded as generations passed. Yet a small number survived. The Flying Dutchman survived. Stories of lost treasure survived. Tales of ghost ships survived. The cursed pirate ship survived. These legends endured because they touched something deeper than curiosity. They addressed emotions and questions that remain relevant regardless of time period. Human beings continue facing uncertainty. We continue wondering about the consequences of our actions. We continue being fascinated by mysteries. The cursed pirate ship embodies all of these themes. Imagine the symbolic journey of the vessel. At first, It is simply a pirate ship operating within a dangerous historical environment. Then misfortune becomes attached to its reputation. Stories of treasure and betrayal emerge. A disaster occurs. Sightings follow. The ship transforms into a ghostly warning. Eventually, it becomes a legend known far beyond the waters where it supposedly sailed. This progression mirrors the way many powerful myths develop. A real or plausible event becomes the foundation. Human imagination expands the narrative. Cultural memory preserves it. Over time, the story acquires meanings extending far beyond its origins. The cursed pirate ship becomes more than a vessel. It becomes a symbol. Imagine what the ship symbolizes. For some audiences, it represents greed and its consequences. The treasure associated with the vessel serves as a reminder that wealth obtained through violence may bring suffering rather than happiness. For others, the ship symbolizes unresolved mysteries. Its disappearances and sightings reflect humanity's fascination with unanswered questions. Still, others view it as a representation of the sea itself. Vast, unpredictable, beautiful, and occasionally terrifying. The legend survives because it accommodates multiple interpretations. Different generations discover different meanings within the same story. Imagine a sailor hearing the legend during the 18th century. The story functions as a warning. Respect the sea. Avoid unnecessary risks. Remain cautious. Now imagine a modern listener hearing the same tale. The practical context may differ, yet the emotional themes remain recognizable. We still encounter uncertainty. We still worry about consequences. We still seek explanations for events that seem difficult to understand. The cursed pirate ship continues speaking to these experiences. This adaptability helps explain its longevity. Imagine the role of mystery in sustaining cultural memory. Solved mysteries often become historical facts. Unsolved mysteries remain active. They invite participation. People discuss possibilities. They propose theories. They revisit evidence. The cursed pirate ship benefits enormously from this dynamic. No definitive conclusion exists. Historians offer explanations. Folklore offers alternatives. The absence of certainty allows the story to remain alive. Every generation becomes part of the conversation. Imagine the ocean itself contributing to the legend's survival. Seas and oceans occupy unique positions within human imagination because they remain simultaneously familiar and mysterious. Millions of people depend upon them, yet vast portions remain difficult to observe directly. Horizons conceal information. Storms still command respect. Shipwrecks continue occurring. The environmental conditions that inspired maritime legends have never disappeared entirely. Consequently, stories associated with the sea retain emotional power. The cursed pirate ship feels believable because it belongs to a setting already rich with uncertainty. Imagine the image at the heart of the legend. A weathered pirate vessel emerging from fog. Dark sails hanging against a gray horizon. The ship appearing briefly before vanishing again. Such imagery remains memorable because it combines familiarity with mystery. We recognize the object. We do not understand its meaning. This combination creates fascination. Great legends often depend upon similarly powerful images. The cursed pirate ship possesses one that is difficult to forget. Imagine generations of storytellers preserving the tale. Some emphasize supernatural elements. Others focus on history. Many simply enjoy the atmosphere. Yet all contribute to survival. Folklore functions collectively. No single individual owns the story. Communities preserve it together. The cursed pirate ship endures because countless people considered it worth repeating. Every retelling became another voyage. Every listener became another witness. Imagine standing on a shoreline as evening approaches. The sea stretches toward the horizon. Fog begins forming in the distance. Somewhere beyond visibility lies possibility. That sense of possibility has always inspired stories. The cursed pirate ship survives because it occupies the space between what is known and what is imagined. It reminds us that uncertainty remains part of life. And as long as uncertainty exists, stories capable of giving it shape will continue sailing through human memory. As we reach the final reflections of our exploration and allow the shadow of the cursed pirate ship to drift slowly back into the mist from which it emerged, we can now see the legend in its fullest form. What began as a tale of piracy, treasure, betrayal, and disaster has gradually revealed itself to be something far more significant. The story is not merely about a haunted vessel. It is about memory. It is about fear. It is about the remarkable ability of human beings to transform experiences into narratives that survive long after the original events have faded from history. The cursed pirate ship refused to die because the ideas it carried refused to die. Long after the ship itself vanished, the emotions, questions, and lessons associated with it remained relevant. That enduring relevance is the true source of the legend's power. Imagine once more the historical world that gave birth to the story. Wooden ships crossing vast oceans. Sailors confronting storms without modern forecasting. Merchant crews worrying about piracy. Families waiting months or years for news from distant voyages. Uncertainty shaped everyday life. The sea provided opportunity, but it also demanded respect. In such environments, stories performed important functions. They preserved knowledge. They reinforced values. They offered explanations. The cursed pirate ship emerged because people needed ways to understand experiences that often felt unpredictable and overwhelming. The legend transformed uncertainty into narrative. Imagine the generations that followed. The age of piracy ended. Maritime technology improved. Scientific understanding expanded. Yet the story remained. Why? Because technological progress does not eliminate every mystery. Human beings still wonder about the unknown. We still search for meaning. We still